Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline is college basketball stats guru and the mastermind behind KenPom.com, Ken Pomeroy. Ken, nice to have you back on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
You are projecting BYU with 7 losses in the regular season. They play 31 regular season games, so 24-7 seems like a pretty good mark, but would that be enough, in your opinion, to get BYU an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament so they're not playing in the NIT like they were last year?
Yeah, I think that scenario would be another close call. They don't have a ton of impact games in the non-conference. A few good teams sprinkled in there. Illinois, Colorado, USC, Princeton could be a team that ends up making the NCAA tournament, and they'll get another game in Vegas, which is not in my predictions, but either Alabama or Valparaiso. So, how they do in those games is going to be very important. And then, of course, WCC provides a few opportunities with St. Mary's and Gonzaga. But even though there's 31 games there, and you can put up a kind of a gaudy record, it's how you do in those 9 or 10 games against pretty decent competition that's going to determine whether they do get into the tournament.
Ken, how many wins does BYU need to feel safe about getting in the tournament?
Well, heading into, say, the West Coast Conference tournament, I'd say, the minimum would be 24. 24-7 would look pretty good. But, they got the 25. They could feel better about that and get 2 more in the WCC tournament. You get 27 and 6, I guess that's how that would work out, if I'm doing the math here. I think, you feel pretty safe at that point. Again, it really depends how some of those other teams do on the non-conference schedule. I mean, you got to be fans of Illinois kind of contending for, the upper half of the Big Ten and getting themselves in position to get in that large bid. And, same for Colorado and USC. I mean, all those teams are kind of in the same boat as BYU right now. They're looking at the season with some optimism, but also, aware of the fact that getting into the NCAA tournament isn't a shoo-in at this point.
College basketball stats specialist Ken Pomeroy with us on BYU Sports Nation. You brought it up, Ken, not a ton of, in your words, impact games on BYU's non-conference schedule. They'll get help once they get into conference from Gonzaga and St. Mary's having those 4 games. But when you look at the non-conference slate of USC, Colorado, Illinois, Valparaiso, and Princeton, on paper, which of those opponents is shaping up to be the toughest for BYU?
Well, that Princeton game really intrigues me. I mean, I have them 35th in my preseason ratings, which is higher than you're going to see in most other places. But, they basically bring everybody back from a team that, was pretty special last season. They also bring back a guy in Hans Frosty, who's kind of their undersized big man who did not play at all last year. So there's a lot of talent there that, I think you look at the name Princeton and you maybe think, there's probably not a high level of basketball being played, but this is a team that, within its own roster has pretty high expectations, and to start the season off with a win, especially maybe even a convincing win against them, I think would be a great sign for the Cougars.
Gonzaga and St. Mary's are loaded. They have experience, and they're ranked. So what % chance does this youthful BYU team have to win their first WCC title ever?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. This is theoretically kind of a banner year for St. Mary's. I mean, they've always had good teams, but, they're bringing back, their entire roster from last season. So, it was a pretty successful year last year. They were such a tough team to peg because, they didn't have a great non-conference schedule. And, they rolled through the conference pretty well, but, kind of won the games they should win and lost the games they should lose, and it got a seat in Gonzaga, and that really kind of, propelled them to, I think, national stature, but they still didn't make the NCAA tournament. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Obviously, Gonzaga is Gonzaga. There are a lot of new faces, but a lot of new faces that have played at a high level in other programs. So a tough year for BYU to win the conference. I'd put the odds, pretty slim, maybe in the 10 to 15% range.
Yeah, I think that's fair, given what Gonzaga is bringing back and the transfers that they add, and then the experience that St. Mary's has. BYU, of course, gives the West Coast Conference a great shot to make it a 3-bid league. What does the WCC need to have happen so that 3 teams do get into the NCAA tournament?
Well, it would really, you say this every year, but it would really help if the rest of the conference kind of did their share, and there's a lot of new coaches, coaching the other 6 teams this year. But it would really help if the bottom of the conference improved a bit so that games against those teams didn't, hurt, the top 3 in terms of the RPI or just in terms of national perception even. That'd be a good start. But obviously it's important, too, for the top teams to do well in non-conference. I mean, that's, it's so important to kind of establish early in the season, for those top 3 teams to say, hey, we're legitimately top 30 teams in the country. If you can do that, then you can kind of suffer a couple of upsets in conference play, and you can also kind of build on your stature in conference play. Those games between BYU and Gonzaga and St. Mary's, they're going to be games that people want to see, and people are obviously going to understand that losing those games is not a bad thing at all. It shouldn't damage your tournament chances. So really what happens in November and December is going to be pretty crucial to all those 3 teams' chances.
Statistically, how do you project when considering youth and inexperience?
It is very difficult. I mean, no question. Like the situation, BYU is one of those teams where, they probably have 4, maybe 5 guys who did not play for BYU last year who are going to make significant impacts. And that is a challenge. The way I do it is look at what guys did in the past at the Division I level, basically, or what they did in terms of their recruiting rating. So that, a guy like TJ Haws, I know what he was rated coming out of high school, and I kind of plug that into the system. And, Eric Mika, I know what he did at BYU as a freshman, so I kind of plug that into the system. So it does make an effort to handle them, but no question, I have a lot more confidence in rating teams, like a St. Mary's where everybody was playing on the team last year, and we kind of have a few more known quantities. It's so hard to project a guy, say, like Elijah Bryant, who played, at Elon 2 years ago, and now he's stepping up in level and coming to BYU, and we know what he did at Elon. He was a very good player. How is that going to translate to the WCC? We have some ideas on that, but obviously the computers can only go so far. There's a lot of context that it doesn't quite understand, and it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Ken Pomeroy, contributor for ESPN.com and Sports Illustrated, the creator of KenPom.com, is with us on BYU Sports Nation discussing the Cougars by the numbers as they approach the 2016-2017 season. Looking nationally, Ken, who's the most impressive team in college basketball right now in your projections?
Well, I think just about every other computer and or human, I have the Duke Blue Devils number 1. They bring in easily the best freshman class in the country, although it's a little bit banged up at this point. A couple of the key players are suffering nagging injuries, but they bring in a great freshman class, and then they bring in some experienced guys from last year, led by their guard, Grayson Allen, who will be one of the leading contenders for Player of the Year, at least among non-freshmen this year. So, by far, I think Duke is the team that is the most impressive. Kind of, following that recipe, modern recipe for a super team, if you want to call it that, where they bring back experienced guys who, probably have a future at the next level, and they bring in a great recruiting class with a bunch of guys that have a future at the next level. And so, we put 3 or 4 guys on the court that could get drafted highly next year. That team figures to win a lot of games.
Hard to argue with that. Ken, I know there are a lot of people across BYU Sports Nation that are listening in that love numbers and statistics and want more of this. How can they find more of what you have put out there in your college basketball preview?
Yeah, absolutely. Just check out KenPom.com. Check out the blog, check out the ratings, and if you're so inclined, you can purchase a subscription for the low price of $20 for the next 12 months.
Fantastic stuff. Ken, we appreciate the time, man. Always fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It was fun.
You got it. Ken Pomeroy on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial future.